I'm 37 and have 3 daughters, 15, 6, and 5. I'll call my oldest Maya for now. She's from a relationship I had back in college. Her mom and I split before Maya turned 1, so she's never known us together. We managed to keep things relatively smooth between us while raising her. No constant back and forth bites, no major custody drama. It's always been more practical than emotional. Maya mostly stays with her mom now. That shift didn't happen overnight, it just slowly became the default as she got older. Her school is closer to her mom's place, her friends are there, and she's got her own routine. At my house, it's more like she drops in when it works for her. Sometimes it's weekends, sometimes just a random weekday if she feels like it. I got married 8 years ago. My wife, I'll call her Rachel, and I have 2 younger daughters together. Maya's always got along with Rachel, which I know isn't always the case in these situations. Rachel never tried to force a mom role, and Maya never pushed her away either. It settled into something easy. Same with her younger sisters. She's good with them, helps them out, watches them if needed, and jokes with them. She's not overly affectionate, but she's there. Maya has always been different from her sisters. Not in a bad way, just in how she presents herself. She doesn't go for the typical girly stuff. Her hair's been short for years. She doesn't wear jewelry and doesn't care about dresses unless there's a specific reason, and she's always lent more towards practical clothes, hoodies, sneakers, that kind of thing. Even when she was younger, she didn't really get into princess stuff the way her sisters do now. There was a phase when she was maybe 8 or 9 where she liked Disney more openly. I remember a time she insisted on watching Beauty and the Beast on repeat for a while. There's still a slightly worn DVD case at my house from back then. But that phase faded, or at least it stopped being something she showed outwardly. Over the last few years, she's been very clear about not liking anything she considers childish. That includes pet names. I used to call her things like princess or kiddo, and at some point she started correcting me. Not aggressively, just short responses like, "Don't call me that." After a few times, I got the message and stopped. There was one moment about a year ago. I'd picked her up from school, and as she got in the car, I said something like, "Hey princess, how was your day?" She didn't even look at me when she said, "Can you not do that in public?" It wasn't loud, but it was firm enough that I didn't question it. After that, I kept things more neutral. Her name, or just talking normally. So in my head, I'd been adjusting to who she is now. She's 15, she's not a little kid, and she doesn't want to be treated like one. That's the mindset I went into this trip with. We planned a few days at Disney World as a family. The younger 2 were obviously excited. Counting down days, talking about rides, picking out outfits. Maya was quieter about it, but she agreed to come without hesitation. She even helped her sisters pack, which I took as a good sign. The first day there, I had some work I couldn't avoid. I got up early, got dressed, and went down to the lobby to handle emails and a couple of calls. It wasn't anything huge, just something I needed to take care of before we started the day. When I went back up to the room, the girls were already getting ready. The 2 younger ones were fully dressed in princess outfits, dresses, crowns, the whole thing. They were spinning around, asking Rachel if they looked real, adjusting their little plastic tiaras. Maya was standing off to the side near the mirror. She wasn't in a costume like them, but she had on a yellow dress. It wasn't flashy or over the top, but it was clearly inspired by Belle. The color, the style, if you knew, you knew. I noticed it, but I didn't make a big deal out of it. Part of me thought if I pointed it out too much, she might feel like I was making it into something childish. The younger 2 ran up to me immediately, asking how they looked. I told them they looked just like princesses. They lit up instantly. One of them asked, "What about Maya?" And I answered without really thinking it through. I said, "I think she's a little too old to be a princess, but she looks really pretty." At the time, it felt like the safe answer. I wasn't dismissing her. But I also wasn't putting her in the same category as her younger sisters, which I thought she wouldn't want. Maya said thanks, but it sounded off. Not angry, just flat. I noticed it, but I didn't connect it to anything bigger. I figured maybe she was just tired or not fully into the morning chaos. We headed out to the park, and overall, things seemed fine. The younger 2 were exactly how you'd expect, excited about everything, pointing things out, asking a million questions. Maya stayed close to Rachel and them, going on rides, taking pictures, and helping keep track of her sisters in crowds. With me, though, she was quieter. Short responses, less eye contact. Not rude, just distant. At one point, we were waiting in line, and I tried to make conversation about one of the rides. She gave me a one-word answer and then turned back to her phone. I told myself not to overthink it. Teenagers get like that sometimes. Still, it felt off. I started wondering if it was something unrelated. School stress, something with friends, something she hadn't mentioned yet. I planned to ask her about it once we got back to the hotel and things slowed down. There's also something else I'll admit, even if it doesn't sound great. Part of me assumed this trip wasn't really her thing anymore. The younger two were clearly the main audience for something like Disney. Maya was coming along, but I didn't think she was emotionally invested in it the same way. She's grown out of that phase, or at least that's what I believed. And if I'm being completely honest, I'd noticed moments before where she gets irritated when her sisters get a lot of attention. Not openly, but in small ways. Pulling back, getting quieter, sometimes making comments under her breath that don't quite land as jokes. There was a birthday last year for the 6-year-old where Maya spent most of the party off to the side on her phone. When I asked if she was okay, she said, "It's not really for me, is it?" Not in a dramatic way, just matter of fact. I didn't push it, but it stuck with me. So when I saw her being a bit distant at Disney, a part of me thought maybe it was that again. The focus is on the younger kids, the environment being geared towards them. I didn't connect it back to what I'd said that morning, not until later. We got back to the hotel that evening, everyone was tired, and the younger two were half asleep already. I was thinking about how to bring it up with Maya, keep it casual, not make it into a big deal. Before I could, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her mom. It wasn't a short message. She got straight to it. Said Maya had texted her earlier in the day and told her what I'd said that morning. Not just the words, but how it came across to her. That I called her sisters princesses and then said she was too old to be one. Her mom focused on the setting. Said we were at Disney, not at home on a random weekday. Said Maya had picked out that outfit on purpose. That it wasn't just a dress, it was her way of participating without feeling like a little kid. I read it twice before responding. I told her I wasn't trying to leave Maya out. I reminded her that Maya has pushed back on pet names for years now, that I've adjusted because of that calling her a princess felt like something she wouldn't appreciate, especially in front of her younger sisters. Her mom came back almost immediately. Said this wasn't about pet names in general. Said I should have read the situation instead of defaulting to what I assumed. That one day at Disney isn't the same as calling her something in a school parking lot. She said I missed something obvious. I told her I wasn't a mind reader. That I went off what Maya had shown me over time. That she doesn't dress in a traditionally girly way, doesn't lean into that kind of attention, and has been clear about how she wants to be spoken to. That's when she said I was being oblivious. Not angry yelling, just direct. Like she'd already decided I wasn't going to get it. I put the phone down after that. I didn't want to keep going back and forth with her while we were still on the trip. It wasn't going to fix anything in that moment, and I didn't want it bleeding into the rest of the night with the kids around. Maya was in the bathroom getting ready for bed. I knocked and asked if everything was okay. She said, "Yeah." I asked if I'd said something earlier that bothered her. There was a pause, then she said she didn't want to talk about it. I stood there for a second longer than I should have, then just said, "Okay," and walked away. I didn't push. I've learned that when she shuts something down like that, pushing usually makes her dig in more. That night, she stayed on her phone longer than usual, the screen lighting up her face in the dark. I didn't ask who she was texting. I already had a pretty good idea. The next day followed the same pattern. She was fine with everyone else, talking to Rachel, helping her sisters, even laughing at things during rides. With me, it stayed surface level. If I asked a question, I got a short answer. If I tried to start a conversation, it didn't go anywhere. At one point, we were waiting in line again, and Rachel gently nudged me and said, "You should probably talk to her." I told her I tried. Rachel said trying once and then backing off doesn't really count when it's something that clearly stuck with her. I asked what she thought I should even say at this point. She didn't overcomplicate it, just said, "Acknowledge it, don't explain it away." That didn't sit right with me, because from my perspective, there was something to explain. I didn't say what I said out of nowhere. I said it based on how Maya has presented herself for years. Later that afternoon, Rachel and I had a longer conversation while the kids were distracted with something else. She told me I was looking at this too narrowly, that I was focusing on what Maya has rejected over time and not paying attention to the fact that she still has things she cares about, even if she doesn't express them the same way anymore. She brought up the outfit again. Said Maya doesn't usually wear dresses like that she must have put thought into it. I said I noticed the dress, I just didn't think pointing it out directly was the right move. Rachel said it wasn't about pointing it out in a way that embarrassed her. It was about recognizing what she was doing. Then she said something that I didn't have an immediate answer for. She asked me, when was the last time you made her feel like she was still one of your kids in the same way as the other two? I told her that didn't make sense. Of course she's my kid. Nothing about that has changed. Rachel said it doesn't always come across that way. That caught me off guard. She clarified. Said the younger two, everything is obvious. Compliments, attention, excitement. With Maya, I tend to keep things more reserved, more practical. I started to say that's because Maya prefers it that way, but even as I said it, it sounded weaker than it did in my head. Rachel didn't argue with me, she just said, maybe sometimes she wants both. That conversation sat with me for the rest of the day. Part of me still thinks she overreacted. She didn't get insulted. I didn't call her anything negative. I said she looked pretty. I just didn't use the word princess. But another part of me keeps going back to the fact that she didn't come to me about it. She went to her mom. That's not the first time that's happened. There have been smaller things before, moments where something bothered her, and instead of bringing it up with me, it showed up later through her mom. Not always as direct as this, but enough that I've noticed a pattern. And every time, it leaves me feeling like I'm the last one to know there's a problem. By the last day of the trip, the distance was still there. Not worse, not better, just there. We got through the trip without any open arguments or scenes. On the outside, it probably looked like a normal family vacation, but it didn't feel normal. On the drive back, Maya had her headphones in most of the time. Rachel was talking with the younger two in the back, keeping them occupied. I kept thinking about whether I should bring it up again right then or wait until later. I didn't. I told myself I'd talk to her when things were calmer, when we were back home and not coming off a long day. But now we're back, and nothing's really changed. She's still polite, still interacts when needed. But that extra layer is still missing. Her mom hasn't brought it up again, but the way that conversation ended is still sitting there. Rachel thinks I should do something to make it up to her. Not in a big, over-the-top way, just something that shows I understand why it mattered. I'm stuck on whether there's actually something to make up for. From where I'm standing, I used what I thought was the more appropriate way to talk to a 15-year-old who's been clear about how she wants to be treated. But at the same time, I can't ignore that she took it differently, and it mattered enough to her that it changed how she interacted with me for the rest of the trip. So now I'm left trying to figure out if I actually handled this wrong, or if I'm being pushed to apologize for something that doesn't line up with everything she's shown me up to this point. Responses: one said, "Man, this one got me because I was that older daughter." Different family, same vibe. Dad starts over and has younger kids. Suddenly you become the one who's easy, the one who's older, tougher, less into kid stuff, more independent and more mature. Sounds flattering until you realize it mostly means people stop handling you with the same tenderness. You become the kid who is expected to understand. The kid who is supposed to not need it. The kid who gets the practical version of love. That's what I hear all over your post. Your younger daughter's got the delighted dad response. Immediate, natural, unfiltered. Maya got the careful, distant version because you decided she had aged out of being included in that kind of affection. And yeah, maybe she hates pet names on ordinary days. So what? Kids are complicated as hell. They want autonomy and reassurance at the same time. They want you to notice when they're reaching for you in a way that still lets them keep their pride. Her Belle outfit was a reach. It was subtle enough that she could still feel 15, but obvious enough that you were supposed to get it. You didn't. Worse, your youngest got it. A little kid noticed her sister was standing there in a princess-themed outfit and not getting the same reaction. That's rough. I'd have wanted to disappear. And here's the other thing. You keep circling back to whether you were logically wrong. That's dad's courtroom nonsense. Nobody gives a shit whether your argument was technically consistent with prior data points. Your daughter was hurt. Your wife saw why. Your ex saw why. Random strangers would see why. You were the only one still trying to litigate whether the spreadsheet says she should have wanted a different response. You're also telling on yourself with the "she doesn't have to fight for attention" line. Are you hearing yourself? She's the child who mostly lives elsewhere while you raise the younger two full-time under one roof. She absolutely knows they get more daily affection, more casual moments, and more of you. That's not an accusation, it's geography. So when a family moment comes along and she tries to step into it, getting sidelined is going to hit twice as hard. Apologize like an adult. No defensiveness. No, "I'm sorry you took it that way." No lecture about how she usually hates pet names. Just own that you missed the moment and hurt her feelings. Then start putting actual effort into one-on-one time with her, because I bet money this isn't only about Disney. Disney was just the moment where the quiet part finally showed on its face. Also, for the record, all these people saying every girl wants to be daddy's princess forever. Nah. Some of us are sea witches, goblins, raccoons in human skin, or whatever. That's not the point. The point is she wanted to feel chosen too, and you whiffed it. Another one said, I'm not girly either. I've had a buzz cut, don't wear jewelry, and live in hoodies and boots. That doesn't mean I don't have moments where I want to feel feminine. It just looks different than your younger kids in costumes. That Belle outfit, that was her version of it. Subtle, controlled, still her. And instead of recognizing that, you basically told her she aged out of being included. The issue isn't the word princess. It's that you tied femininity and softness to being young and cute, and once she didn't fit that mold, you stepped back. Girls like us already deal with people assuming we don't care about that stuff. It sucks when your own dad does it too. Also, you keep focusing on how she usually is. People aren't static. One day she might reject pet names, another day she might want that exact reassurance in a different setting. You didn't just miss a word. You missed what she was trying to express without making a big deal out of it. Fix that, not the label. Update. I didn't expect this to drag out like it has, but here we are. After the trip, things didn't just go back to normal. If anything, the distance stuck around in a way that's harder to ignore now that we're back home. At first, I figured it would fade. A few days, maybe a week, and we'd be back to our usual dynamic. That didn't happen. Maya still comes over, but it's different. She's there physically, but that's about it. She'll sit with Rachel and her sisters, talk to them, and help out if needed. With me, it's bare minimum. If I ask something, she answers. No extra conversation, no effort to engage. Rachel noticed it before I said anything. One evening after dinner, she told me, she's still talking, just not to you. I didn't have a response to that. A couple days later, Rachel told me something else. Apparently, Maya had mentioned to her casually, like it wasn't a big deal, that she almost didn't bring the yellow dress to Disney at all. Rachel asked why, and Maya said, I figured no one would notice anyway. That didn't sit right with me. Not because of what she said, but because of what it implied. That she went into that trip already expecting not to be seen in that way. I told Rachel I did notice the dress, I just didn't think making a big deal about it was the right move. Rachel said, you noticed it. You just didn't acknowledge it. That conversation didn't go anywhere productive. It turned into her saying I categorize Maya too rigidly, not girly, doesn't like pet names, independent, and then act like those labels cover everything. I disagreed. I said I'm going off how Maya presents herself. Short hair, no interest in that kind of attention, and doesn't like being treated like a little kid. That's not me making things up, that's what she's shown consistently. Rachel didn't argue the facts. She just said, you're only seeing the version of her that asks for less. I decided to try and talk to Maya again after that. Not in passing, not a quick, you okay, an actual conversation. It didn't go well. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I told her I wanted to talk about what happened at Disney. She didn't look up, just said, I don't. I told her that wasn't how this works. That if something I said upset her, she needs to talk to me about it instead of going straight to her mom. That's where things shifted. She finally looked at me, but not in a way that felt open. More like she was bracing for something. I said running to her mom over something like this isn't helpful. That she's 15, not 5. If I said something wrong, she should be able to say it to me directly. She didn't respond. And I'll admit, that's where I lost patience. I told her she needs to get a grip on how she handles things, that she doesn't need to compete with her sisters for attention, that they're not her rivals. That if she wants to be recognized for something, she should actually say it instead of expecting people to read her mind. Still nothing. So I kept going. I told her not to make scenes out of small things and then act like everyone else is the problem. That she should focus on school and her own life instead of turning everything into some kind of issue about fairness or attention. That got a reaction, but not the kind I expected. She just said, okay, picked up her phone, and walked to the guest room. Later that night, Rachel told me I handled that badly. I told her I tried talking calmly first, that I can't force a conversation if Maya refuses to engage. At some point, she needs to meet me halfway. Rachel said, you didn't want a conversation, you wanted her to admit you were right. I don't think that's accurate, but I can see why it came across that way. I found out Maya had told her mom about that conversation too, not word for word, but enough. So I reached out to her mom directly. I told her I feel like she's encouraging this pattern, Maya coming to her instead of dealing with things directly with me. That it's creating a situation where I'm always the last one to know there's a problem. And yeah, I brought up something I probably shouldn't have. I said it feels like she's still holding on to old issues and letting that influence how she sees me, and now it's affecting how Maya sees me too. Her response was immediate. She said she doesn't hold any grudge over what happened between us, that she moved on a long time ago. Then she said, "This has nothing to do with me. This is about how you talk to your daughter now." Since then, things with Maya have shifted again, but not in a good way. She's been coming over less, not dramatically, just less, shorter visits. More, "I've got stuff to do," or "I'll come by another day." When she is here, she keeps everything neutral. Rachel noticed something else too. The way Maya dresses when she's here now is different, more closed off, oversized hoodies, nothing that stands out. It's not that she didn't dress casually before, but this feels more intentional, like she's making sure nothing about her draws attention. Last weekend, I overheard her on the phone. I wasn't trying to listen, but I caught part of what she said. "She's better with them. It's just different." I didn't need context to know what that meant. I confronted her about it later, asked what she meant by that. She said, "Nothing." I pushed, and that turned into me grounding her for the weekend after she refused to actually answer. Rachel was not on board with that at all. Said I was punishing her for not opening up on command. I said if she's going to talk about me like that, I deserve an explanation. That didn't go anywhere productive either. Now there's another layer to all of this. Our 6-year-old's birthday is coming up. Normally, we plan something simple. Family, maybe a small party. Right now, I'm not looking forward to it at all. The idea of dealing with Maya being distant, Rachel analyzing everything I say, and her mum potentially being involved in any capacity. It all sounds like more tension on top of something that's supposed to be straightforward. And I'll be honest, I'm starting to question how much of this is actually on me. Yes, maybe I could have handled the Disney comment differently, but at this point, this feels bigger than that. Maya's reaction hasn't just been about that one moment. It's turned into distance, going to her mum instead of me, shutting down conversations, and now making comments about how I treat her compared to her sisters. So I'm asking this seriously. Is she overreacting to what was said? Is this just typical teenage behavior being blown out of proportion? Or am I actually missing something here, and she's reacting to more than just that one comment? Opinions 1 said, "Jesus Christ, yes, you're still the problem. Your daughter got hurt, went quiet, and instead of asking why with any actual care, you turned it into a lecture about maturity, attention, school, and competing with her sisters." That is a wild thing to dump on a 15-year-old who never even made a public scene. She got distant. That's it. You escalated. And accusing your ex of poisoning Taylor against you because she called out your behavior. Come on, that's coward shit. Easier to blame the woman you cheated on than admit you mishandled your kid. The grounding is what really gets me. You overheard something painful, and instead of wondering why your daughter feels that way, you punished her for not reassuring you. That's not parenting, that's ego. Your wife sees it, your ex sees it, Maya sees it. You're the only one still clinging to, but my logic made sense. Kids are not spreadsheets. Also, stop using "not girly" as an excuse to emotionally flatten her. A girl can have short hair, hate pet names, wear hoodies, and still want softness from her dad. You're acting like because she isn't sparkly and easy, she should need less. That's messed up. Another said, "You sound less upset that Maya is hurt and more upset that she didn't deliver her hurt in a format you liked." She withdrew. You demanded a meeting. She froze. You lectured. She told her mum. You called her a baby. She made one comment on the phone. You grounded her. Every step of this got worse because you treated her feelings like insubordination. And the line about "say it out loud when you want to be recognized." Dude, she did. She wore the damn Belle outfit to Disney. That was the bid. That was her saying, in the most 15-year-old way possible, "See me, but don't make me feel stupid for asking." You missed it. Your youngest daughter even noticed the gap. A little kid clocked the exclusion faster than you did. Sit with that. I don't think Maya is too clingy or too childish. I think she's learned that coming to you directly is risky because you turn vulnerable moments into correction sessions. Your wife is trying to save this. Your ex is probably tired of being the emotional cleanup crew. And Maya is slowly deciding whether having less of you might actually hurt less. That should scare the hell out of you. Follow-up. A lot has happened since my last post, and I'll just get straight into it. The birthday was the turning point, even if things were already heading there. We kept it small, just a few kids from school, some family, and cake at the house. I didn't want anything complicated. I already knew there was tension with Maya, and I didn't want to deal with her mum beyond basic logistics. Maya came, but it was obvious she didn't want to be there. She stayed near the kitchen most of the time, helped Rachel set things up, refilled drinks, and kept things moving. She wasn't sulking or making a scene. If anything, she was too quiet. At one point, one of Rachel's relatives asked her why she wasn't joining the games with the kids. Before she could answer, I said, "She's in one of her moods lately." I didn't think much of it when I said it. It was quick, just filling the silence. Maya heard it. She didn't react right away, but I noticed she stopped helping after that, just stood there for a bit, then stepped outside. Rachel gave me a look but didn't say anything in the moment. Later, while the kids were distracted, I tried to talk to Maya again. I told her this whole thing had gone too far. That one comment at Disney had turned into weeks of tension, and it didn't make sense. She didn't respond. So, I said it straight. She needs to stop acting like everything revolves around her. That her sisters have their own moments too, and not everything is about her getting recognition. That's when Rachel stepped in. She told me to stop. Said this wasn't the time or place. I told her, if not now, then when? Because clearly letting it sit hadn't worked. Maya just stood there, quiet, like she'd checked out. I said something else I probably shouldn't have. Dress however you want, act however you want, but don't expect people to read into it and give you some special response. That's when things actually blew up. Rachel told me I was completely missing the point. That Maya never asked for a special response, she just didn't want to feel excluded. That I keep turning everything into a lesson instead of listening. We were still inside, voices carrying more than I realized. A couple of the relatives definitely heard. Then Maya's mom showed up earlier than expected to pick her up. She walked into the middle of it. She didn't ask what happened. She just looked at Maya, then at me, and said, "What did you say to her now?" I told her this wasn't her business. That didn't go well. She said it is her business when her daughter is clearly upset every time she comes back from my place lately. Then she brought up the Disney thing again, and I told her she needs to stop feeding into this narrative that I did something wrong. That's when she said it. She said this isn't about Disney, and it's not about one comment. That Maya's been adjusting to me for years, and I don't even see it. Then she said, in front of Rachel and a couple of other people still in the house, that I don't get to talk about accountability when I couldn't even stay loyal when we were together. That I broke trust back then, and I'm still doing it now in a different way. I told her that was completely irrelevant. She said it's not. That Maya was young but not oblivious. That the way things ended affected her more than I think, and the way I handle things now doesn't help. I shut that down immediately. I said, we're not dragging the past into this. Maya hadn't said anything the entire time. She just left with her mum. After that, the party just continued, but it wasn't the same. Rachel barely spoke to me the rest of the day. Over the next week, things didn't settle. They got worse. I reached out to Maya a couple of times, short messages, asking if she wanted to come over or if she wanted to talk. Responses were minimal. Busy. Maybe later. I called her mum again, thinking maybe she could help fix this. She refused. Said, "This is between you and her. Stop trying to go through me." That left me with nothing to work with. At home, things were tense in a different way. I started noticing I was getting irritated faster with everything. The younger girls are being loud and not listening, normal kid stuff. It felt amplified. One night, they were arguing over something small, and I snapped at them harder than I should have. Told them to be quiet, to stop acting out, that not everything needs to turn into chaos. They both just went silent. Rachel pulled me aside after and said, "You're taking this out on them now." I said, "I'm not. I'm just dealing with a lot at once." She said, "Exactly." Around that same time, I tried to fix things with Maya in my own way. I bought her something Belle-related. Not a costume, something subtle. Thought it showed I paid attention. When I gave it to her during one of her visits, I said, "See, I do notice things." She looked at it, then at me and said, "After it mattered." That set me off more than it should have. I told her she's impossible to please right now, that no matter what I do, it's not enough. She didn't argue. Just handed it back and said she didn't want it. After that, she stopped coming over entirely. Not gradually, just stopped. Rachel tried to keep things steady between us, but I could tell she was pulling back, not engaging in the same way, not stepping in like she used to. When I asked her about it, she said, "Because you don't hear me anyway." Then, about 2 weeks ago, she told me she was taking the girls to stay with her parents for a bit. She didn't frame it as permanent, just said things were tense and the house didn't feel right. I told her that was an overreaction. She said, "You think everything is." She packed a few things, took the kids, and left. It's been 2 weeks. The house is quiet in a way it hasn't been in years. Work hasn't slowed down either. If anything, it's worse. Deadlines are stacking, calls are back to back, and there's no real break. I come home, and there's nothing to shift my focus. No noise, no interruptions, no routine, just time to think. And I keep going back to the same question. Did this really spiral out of one comment? Or has this been building for longer, and I just didn't see it until now? Because from where I'm standing, I didn't say anything that extreme, but from where everyone else seems to be standing, I've handled this completely wrong. And now I'm sitting in an empty house, trying to figure out how it got here.